In our massive country, there are card collectors throughout the land participating in the hobby. There's Mike of Junk Wax Hero and Greg of Midlife Cards. And while distance may separate them, here is where they come together to talk cards. All right, here I am. I'm here with Tony Liebrick, though, not Mike Junk Wax Hero. Mike wasn't feeling well, and so he said, "Hey, do you want to postpone a couple of days?" And I go, "No, dude, I'll just replace you. That's no big deal." So,
It's hard to replace Mike, man.
so a quick call over to my boy Tony, and here we are. So, thank you for coming in out of the bullpen on short notice. You're the man.
Hey, man, anytime, dude. I just love talking about cards. I love spending time with you, so it's a
Yeah.
win-win.
Hey, likewise. So basically, if people aren't familiar with you, because we're on different platforms and stuff than we normally are, but tell people where they can find you if they're not familiar with you, Tony.
Yeah, so on YouTube, Southern Collector 14, it will take you right to my channel. And then on Instagram, Southern Collector 14. Made it real easy. It's the same on both. So yeah, I've been on Instagram for a couple of years and built a community there and then branched out to YouTube thanks to you, helping me out, getting me started and giving me all the pointers and coming up on my 1 year anniversary on that. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
So Tony's got a great channel. If you aren't following Tony at Southern Collector 14, you are missing out for sure. Does lots of research for his videos, has an amazing collection. Really likable guy, has great guests on. So highly recommend him. We are going to talk about something when I found out on short notice that, Mike wasn't going to be on, and I gave you a buzz and you said, "Yeah, I'm in." The first topic that came to my mind when I thought about you, and I thought would be really fun to talk about, is how a lot of the times, a lot of us in collecting cards, we will kind of just pivot from where we're going and what we're doing, and then kind of on a dime, we'll just start heading in a different direction. And I think there are a lot of us that do that. A lot of us, we're doing one thing and then all of a sudden we're doing a different thing. You're collecting basketball cards and all of a sudden you go into baseball. You go from, golden era and all of a sudden you're suddenly really interested in pre-war cards. And when when you first got back into the hobby, you were doing a lot of player runs and you were doing Hank Aaron player runs, you were doing Mickey Mantle player runs, and now you're doing something completely different. So tell us about, from your perspective, why did you change? Why did you pivot from what you were doing into what you're doing now? Just take me through that process on what kind of spurred that, because I think a lot of people at times start to think of themselves as, well, I'm the the Hank Aaron guy, and now I can't start collecting something else because Hank Aaron is sort of what I do. So
Yeah.
how did you come to that point?
Well, yeah. So when I got back in, it was, what do I do? Like, I didn't know. I knew what I knew, and what I knew was golden era baseball cards. Because even in my teenage years, in my early, like, elementary, middle school years when I was collecting, I knew those cards like the back of my hand. Those were in the Beckett's. Every now and then I'd see a really cool one at the flea market or at my local card shop that really wasn't that local. It was downtown Nashville. And my mama would take me every now and then, and me and my brother, and we'd look at the cards under the glass. And I remember wanting a Willie McCovey rookie card so bad. Like, that was just so cool to me. And of course, you always dreamt of having a Mickey Mantle card or something like that. So that was what I knew. I knew some of the pre-war. I knew the T206 set. I knew the Goudies. I knew all that stuff. And so, I wanted those. I remember I still have, like, when I first got back in, I don't think I've ever told you this. I was collecting the golden era stuff, but man, I was seeing some of this T206 stuff when I found eBay. And I ordered, because at this point, I wasn't spending money, man. I never dreamt I'd spend the kind of money I've been spending. This is stupid. But anyways, it was just I was dipping a toe in, and I ordered 2 T206 cards and some dudes I've never heard of because it was really cheap, and I thought the card looked really cool. It was an action shot, this dude diving for a ball, and it was kinda weird looking, and I remember getting that card in and showing my wife and going, "This card right here is 115 years old. Can you believe that?" And she was like, "Wow," and I think I paid, I don't know, 60 bucks for it or something, you know?
Yeah.
And, so I I was already kinda dipping a toe in, and then I I started watching YouTube, and that's
Mm.
what changed things because I started being inspired by people and, seeing Orlando go through the catalog and show all these different pre-war sets, and then Dave Blue Jacket 66, seeing him show all the stuff he was showing, and man, it was interesting and it was sexy, and man, I'd never seen that stuff before. And all of a sudden that was piquing my interest because while I still love the golden era stuff, that was new and it was exciting. So I started going down that route. And then there was one thing that really kind of changed me a little bit. When I was a kid, when I'd go to the library or we had the book fair, I'd always check out baseball books, you know,
Mhm.
and or I'd buy a little baseball book. And I remember reading about Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and Ted Williams and those guys and Babe Ruth. And I was always into baseball history. I wanted a Cracker Jack card, but again, I wasn't spending big money, and I was able to get a Chief Bender Cracker Jack card. I didn't know who Chief Bender was, but I thought it was cool. He had the pillbox hat on, had the stripes around it, and I didn't know why he was even named Chief.
Yeah.
And I read the back of that card, the biography thing, and it talked about how he grew up on an Indian reservation, and it I was thinking, dang man, that's awesome. So I ordered a book on Chief Bender. So there I go. Now I'm getting back into that history side. And once I started reading books, now I'm reading about different people in these books I didn't know about. And it's starting to pique my interest on different players. Then Shoeless Joe Jackson happened, and I start reading about him. And man, alive, dude, I knew the name and I knew, 8 Men Out, and I knew Field of Dreams and all that stuff. But when I started really reading about his story, it really hit home for me as a Southerner
Mhm.
about how this guy didn't know, he didn't know how to read and write. He just loved to play baseball. He ends up going to the Northeast. He's kind of a weirdo because he has a Southern accent and he doesn't know how to get around a town and he can't read a menu. And that piqued my interest. So now I'm like, man, I got to get me some Joe Jackson cards. So I go down that route. In the meantime, what's always kind of lingering there as I'm seeing more and more cards and I'm getting into auction houses, um, autograph cards have always been a thing for me, man. Always been a thing for me. And you know the story, I've told it ad nauseum about me getting Mickey Mantle's autograph on my 59 Mantle Tops card when I was 14 years old, standing in front of him. And also earlier than that, in 1980, um, the Braves came through town on the Braves caravan, and they all sat in my local mall behind tables, and it was Jerry Royster, and it was Phil Necro, and it was Dale Murphy, and it was Glenn Hubbard, all these dudes that I mean, these are major leaguers. And I took my little cards with me and they signed the cards. I got a 69 Tops Phil Necro signed that day.
Mm.
He touched that card. He looked me in the eye and handed it back. And I'm sure he was thinking, how did this kid get a 69 Tops? I was 10. I
Yeah.
don't even know how I got the card. Don't remember. But I still have that card.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing all this stuff and I'm like, man, dude, that's cool. And so I don't remember what the first one I bought that was slab. I don't remember which card that was. I wish I did. I don't have that kind of memory, but when I got those cards in, that affected me more than just having an unsigned card. It brought back the memories of meeting Mantle. It brought back the memories of meeting Dale Murphy and Phil Necro and And then the Nashville Sounds would have exhibitions sometimes, and they bring in major league teams. And I remember the Indians came, and I got Corey Snyder's autograph, and some dudes that were just, hanging over the dugout asked for their autograph when I was like 14 years old. And getting Dave Winfield's autograph when I was in 7th grade at a Sounds game, and
Wow.
the Yankees were playing the Sounds, and he autographed my program, and taking that to school the next day and showing all my buds. So having an autograph card in my hand that Jackie Robinson touched, or Mickey Mantle touched, or Yogi Berra touched, even if I didn't see him autograph it and I wasn't there, it says PSA DNA on that slab. It has their DNA on it. It really does. It
Hmm.
touched that man. And to me, that is more of an emotional attachment to a object that I would ever have by just getting a 1959 pink Bob Gibson card that doesn't have a signature on it.
Yeah.
So it was an emotional thing to me. And I just think it's cool as crap, man. So it's grabbed me. I've gone down other routes, the Negro League route, trying to pick those guys up. I started reading some of those books. I read the book about the the 1948 Indians, and read all about Larry Doby. And man, dude, that blew my mind. Like, why did I not know his story? Like, I
Yeah.
felt guilty for not knowing that man's story, and that he did everything Jackie Robinson did. So now I went on a Larry Doby run. Then I start reading about Monty Irvin, did Monty Irvin, and now I'm starting to read about the Negro League era. And then I get a Josh Gibson, and then I'm
Yeah.
reading about Josh Gibson. Now I'm learning about, you know, uh, Buck Leonard, and I'm learning about Cool Papa Bell and Satchel Paige. And
Hmm.
so the history kind of intertwines with my collecting journey, and it spurs on stuff. It all started with Chief Bender. It's his fault.
It sounds to me like the method behind the growth is exposure. It sounds to me like what you're saying is, before, when I would look at a book at the book fair or get a Beckett and there was a Babe Ruth card on it, you became aware of those cards,
Yeah.
and that was now in your awareness. And some of the players and some of the sets and some of the stories you just previously weren't aware of. But then you watch Orlando and you watch Dave, and they kind of the tentacles kind of outreach a little bit further, and then you read a book, and then, well, there's this guy in there and this guy in there too, so let's find out about them. And it's
Hmm.
almost like this domino effect of, once the first domino goes, it just starts to spread.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting concept. That it's one of the beauties of YouTube is it's a wonderful learning tool. It
Yeah.
can be a negative tool, it can be a positive tool, but it's a really, really good medium for learning and
Yep.
for sharing knowledge and
Yep.
for showing pictures and videos and telling stories. And books are great too, and you're doing a lot of reading, and that's a lot of your exposure. But a lot of people don't read books, and so I think that those two things, it sounds like to me, are sort of the genesis of the spread. Would
Yeah.
you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, it started on Instagram.
Mm,
Actually, I was seeing, now that is real surface, because you're just seeing the card and you're getting exposed to different cards. You're kind of seeing stuff you like. But YouTube is three-dimensional, man. People are talking, they're telling stories, they're teaching. That's what I like about your channel. You teach. But Dave Blue Jacket, he teaches. Mangini, he'll show stuff I've never seen before.
oh
He's
yeah,
teaching me about a card. And so, those channels, Rick, Vintage Oddball Cards,
oh
he'll
yeah.
show me stuff, man, and I'm learning stuff, and it's opening new doors. And all of a sudden, the scales fall off your eyes, and you're like, whoa, and everything's in vivid color, and you're seeing stuff you never knew before. And to me, man, that's what's rich about the hobby.
Hmm.
It ain't about the dollars and the cents and the man, I got to invest in this card, or I hope this card, I hope this guy. No, man, it's deeper than that. And so, at least it is for me. So that's how I've tried to do my channel. I've seen guys, man, these influencers get on there and talk about their cards, and you hear them talk about, and they're not even saying stuff right, and they're mispronouncing people's names, and you realize real quick, man, they're on there just to try to get their name out there. They're influencers, but they're influencing you, not even knowing what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't that guy, and I want to know. I don't know it. I'm not, the all knowing. I'm learning every day. Where that's what we're discussing. But I
Yeah.
try to be humble about it, and I want my channel to be one of those channels that people learn, and people talk about experiences, and there's an emotional attachment to things. And that's why I do my collector spotlight series. It's a focus on the cards and your experience on grabbing that card. I do my episodes on players, and we do deep dives into Ted Williams and Larry Doby and Jackie Robinson, because to me the key to the hobby is the history of the game. And if you don't have an appreciation for the history of the game, you have no reason to ever dig deeper, to be intrigued and want to learn. So
There's when I was younger, and I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush, because there are always outliers. There are always, anomalies but generally speaking, younger people in the hobby, I can speak for myself. When I was younger in the hobby, I wanted, the chases were the Daryl Strawberry cards, the Jose Canseco cards, the Mark McGuire, the Roger Clemens, the Will Clark. Those were the guys that everybody wanted. And there wasn't, in some cases, I had attachments to some cards. Like the Clemens cards that came into my collection were prized. But some of the other stuff, there were times where you would want to pick up a card because it was good trade bait. It's
yeah,
good trade bait for getting what you wanted more. And there was less of a connection. Now, again, I still have some cards from my childhood collection that I'll never sell. But then as we get older, I think that there is more of an appreciation for the history of the game. There is more of a appreciation for the beauty of an image or of a card or of a design. There's more of an appreciation for the rare, and I mean, like the cards where you could go online right now on Whatnot and see a bunch of people just ripping packs of the same thing. Like Topps basketball is about to come out like in October, and that stuff's going to be all over the place, and they're going to be people spending all sorts of money to get it. Great, that I don't have any problem with that. But to me, I'm a little bit more intrigued by the card that you don't see very often, or the design you don't see very often, and I see a beauty in that. And I do think it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you tell me if you agree or disagree, but I feel like it's part of the evolution that we go from being interested in prospects that have a high potential ceiling and the chase and the hot potato, um, to being more intrigued by the history and the legend and the beauty and the design. I mean, if right now you and I went to the Museum of Modern Art, I would say the average age in the building would probably be about 70 years old. There's not a bunch of kids just sitting there looking at the art going, this is amazing.
yeah.
Like, again, I know I'm speaking in generalities, and of course there are anomalies. But why is that, do you think, that people go from being interested in the hot thing, not having the emotional connection, to then getting to the point where the beauty and the history and the age of it and the impact that was made, the impact becomes really important. And I've heard you talk about this a little bit in the past, but take me through your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I have talked about this in the past. I talked with Brett McGrath about this on stacking slabs and got a little play. Chris Hoge even picked up on it and talked about it on Jeremy Lee. But I was just trying to explain to him, and it kind of hit a nerve with some people. But it's true. As we get older, you start to look back because I'm 56 years old, man. My life is already over halfway done. I'm not living to 112. And if I am, I don't want to because I'll probably be in a bed somewhere, bed sore, somebody changing my diaper. I don't really need that. So that's not a
Hmm.
quality of life thing. But just yesterday, man, I was over there hanging out with my grandson, and I got emotional just holding my little buddy. You know,
Hmm.
he's 10 months old and he knows who his pops is now, and he's climbing on me, and I'm getting emotional. I'm thinking, this is my legacy right here.
Hmm.
Everything I've done, it doesn't matter what kind of thing I've done in my business, what kind of thing I've done at my church, or what kind of thing I've done, financially, what kind of house I live in. None of that crap matters. What kind of cards I have. What matters is that little dude. Did I raise a good enough son that one day my grandson is going to be a good person? That's what's important. And so
Yeah.
I'm looking at my little grandson thinking, he's got my last name. He's even got my middle name just passed down. And this is my legacy right here. And I'm looking back at my life. It's kind of like Saving Private Ryan when he kind of flashes back. And so that's what you do. The older you get, it ain't I'm looking back and going, man, dang it, man. I'm almost gonna be dead. No, I'm looking back thinking, man, I remember when my kids learned to walk and when they were that age, and I'm looking back with fondness. And so those baseball players I watched when I was 14 years old, man, they're old men now. They're being wheeled out on the field. Like I remember seeing Dave Parker, big, huge Dave Parker, being wheeled out in a wheelchair to wave at the fans, having getting help standing up. And I watched him play, man.
Hmm.
So I watch him now, he's gone, but he just got in the Hall of Fame. I appreciate his older cards, all that kind of stuff. So you look back with fondness. And so the more that kind of stuff happens to me, you turn into somebody who wants to look back in history. In human DNA, it's the older people who tell the younger people about the past. It
Hmm.
goes way back, man. When cavemen were sitting around drawing things on the walls, they were trying to tell the kids, hey, back then we killed this antelope over that hill over there. In
Yeah.
the Jewish culture, it's the older people at Passover who talk about the Passover meal. In churches, it's the older people who are the elders of the congregations. In Indian tribes, it was the older Indian men who sat around and they were the chiefs and they would pass down the history of their tribe. It's just who we are. And so people say until they're blue in the face, oh, these young kids, man, they've been saying that since my mom was young and her daddy wouldn't let her watch Elvis because he shook his pelvis on TV. So
Hmm.
it's just what it is, man. I mean, we're built
I,
the same.
I agree, and I also think, and I'll share some experiences here for me. I think that there are seeds that are planted, and they don't root in for a while, but the seed is there in the soil.
It
When
is.
I was in, it was like fourth or fifth grade. There was my class read a book together. Like you'd go through different books where you'd all read it and the teacher would read and you'd follow along, or you'd go around the room and take turns reading or whatever. And the book was called In the Year of the Boar and Jackie Robinson. And it was this little kid book. And it was about this little girl who came to America from China, and she felt different than everyone else and she felt like an outsider. I mean, I remember it, and that would have been 35 years ago that I
Yeah.
was in fourth grade or whatever. And she ended up getting turned on to baseball. And she would sit by the radio and hear Jackie Robinson playing, and he became her hero. And it was the year of the boar because in the Chinese culture, every year has a different animal and it rotates through. And it was the year of the boar. And it was 1947 when Jackie Robinson went to the major leagues, and she lived in Brooklyn. And that was the first time I said, dang, like this I mean, I'm getting chills just talking about it right
Yeah, that's
now. But
awesome.
Jackie Robinson left an imprint on little kids, little boys and girls growing up during that era.
Yeah.
And that left a seed. Now, I didn't run out when I was in 4th grade. I was collecting cards, but I went, okay, cool. Let's go now get my Garbage Pail Kids and try to
Yeah.
get my 87 tops, Mark McGuire.
Yeah.
But it left an impression on me that Jackie Robinson was important, not just as a baseball player, but to the culture of America and to the society of America.
Yeah.
A couple years later, I'm sitting there in my sixth grade class, and my teacher, Mr. Morgan, he played us a movie one day, and it was Brian's song, and it
Yeah.
was about Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers. And I remember going, that Gale Sayers dude is awesome. I love this dude. And Gale Sayers, he's my guy.
Yep.
And ever since, I've been a Gale Sayers fan. Now, I didn't buy a Gale Sayers card for 30 more years, but the seed was planted
Yeah.
that I knew that Gale Sayers was different. And I knew that Gale Sayers was an impact on me, on how you treat people. And Brian Piccolo and how he treated Gale Sayers, and Gale Sayers, how he treated Brian Piccolo. And that left an impression on me. And I knew that they left an impression on others. And now I've got a bunch of Gale Sayers cards. I just picked up a Gale Sayers card a couple of weeks ago. I've bought a couple of Jackie Robinson cards in the last 6 months. And so I totally agree with what you're saying about looking back, but I also think that there are seeds that are planted and it just takes a while for the soil and the nutrients and for it to take root and for it to actually develop into an outward expression, which is card collectors. It's acquiring the card.
Yeah.
And I really think that these young kids, we're kind of going, we were different. Well, were we? I mean,
Yeah.
I took on the Gale Sayers thing and I took on the Jackie Robinson thing, but I was still buying Garbage Pail Kids at the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
here I am now buying those guys who left an impression on me from a long, long time ago. And those guys weren't playing then. This is
Yep.
after they were playing. So I think that there's some of that. Are there players other than your experience with Mantle and meeting Mantle and all that kind of thing? Do you have some experiences of memories where you were sitting around or you read an article or you interacted with someone that left an impression where it's now affected what you collect?
Yeah. Yeah. But first, before I jump into that, somebody said something the other day, this kind of going back to what you were just saying about when you get a little older, it's hard to root on guys that are your kids' age. And I
Mm,
never really thought about that way. So, like Shohei Ohtani and them, I got a daughter that's 31 years old. And so I can't look at those guys as heroes. When
mm,
I was a kid and I watched Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs in the World Series, that dude was a hero. He was older. You could look up to him. I can't look up to Shohei Ohtani. I think he's amazing. So it kind of changes the way you view things. So all of a sudden, your heroes are dying, they're getting old, and they ain't playing no more. And now you just again, that's another way of looking back. And so you just asked a question. Yes, that has happened. I think I've shared this with you before.
well, just give me a little Cliff Note version then.
Yeah, it was Willie Mays. Tim and I went to a card show to get his autograph, and I had a baseball. I didn't have a Willie Mays card because I wasn't collecting at that point, but I did love autographs. I'd go to shows just get autograph when I was in my early 20s. And he just was an ornery old man. He wasn't nice. There was a sign and it said it, and that person either disregarded or just didn't see it, I think. And it was like sign only flats or balls or something. And somebody tried to give him a bat. I don't remember what exactly happened, but it was something like that. And he snapped at him.
Mhm.
And it was like two people in front of me. And I'm like, whoa. And, he shouldn't have done it. He should have let his handler do that. But I mean, it was kind of, and that's Willie Mays, man. And that person recoiled. And then I got up there and I was like, thanks, Mr. Mays. And he didn't even look up, wouldn't make eye contact. And he was like that the entire time. So I don't collect Willie Mays cards. I don't like
Sure.
them.
No, and
And it
I
affects
do.
how I looked at Barry Bonds too, because that's his godson.
So so it went all the way down to the godson. You
It
felt
did.
that way. Well, I
Yeah.
know you have other issues with bonds, but I really think that, I think that younger kids that are collecting right now, where we think that they're not paying attention, I think that they're paying attention to things and they're picking up things more than we think. But right now, they're into the now, and they're not yet into the past. And I think you give a great explanation as to why eventually we start looking toward the past, and I think some of those kids will change. But, if they don't, that's fine. But
Yeah.
again, they've been saying this for a long time. Now, one of the things also that I notice is as we get more and more into the hobby, people tend to be more, I mean, if you look on YouTube, for example, and you look at the most veteran collectors of guys on YouTube or that have podcasts or Instagram, the guys that have been doing this the longest, they seem to be most intrigued by the ultra rare stuff. And they seem less intrigued by the more common stuff, even though some of the common stuff are absolute iconic cards, you know, they still tend to be, they get fired up when they see something that they don't see very often.
Yeah.
And you look in Orlando's eyes, and he pulls up out a Venezuelan that he just bought, and he gets pretty excited.
Yeah.
He gets a Deportivo card and he gets pretty excited, but he doesn't get super excited for a 68 tops card. What do you think that's all about?
Well, it's just something new. I mean, I'm not a bird watcher, but some people do that for a hobby. And if they're out there looking and just there's a dove right there, or a robin, but they see that purple headed nutcracker something bird. I don't know where I came up with that thing,
Yeah.
but they're going to get kind of excited. So yeah, it's the chase, man. It's all about the chase, and it has to do with rarity. In the modern hobby today, that's what they're doing. They're chasing one of ones or one of fives, and with us, we have our own chases, and so that's one of the reasons I like sign cards. I pick up a 1955 uh, Jackie Robinson, but to have one that's signed now, man, there's what, 12 of those or 16 of those in the world. So
Yeah.
to have one of those is just that extra level, it's just cool.
Now, we when we were growing up, it was all about set collecting. And then we kind of went away from set collecting.
Yeah.
But now I just finished building a set. You're in the middle of a set build.
Yeah.
Is that for the same reason? Is it the hunt? Is it the trying to find something? Because I went through a stretch where I was like, man, why am I buying cards of guys I'd never heard of? Like just
Yeah.
to build the set, finish a set. Like this does why am I doing this? But
Hmm.
then I went out and bought a bunch of pirate cards of guys that pirates I'd never heard of either. I'd only heard of about two or three of those pirates in that set of
Yeah.
50. But is it the chase? Is that what was the intriguing part? I mean, you're doing a set build. What are you doing a set build for? Why?
Yeah, it's absolutely the chase, and it's a lot of fun, man. Every day I look to see if one popped up on eBay. I've got the save searches, and it comes up on my email, and then I look and see what the new ones are, and then so yeah, I'm building that 1915 Cracker Jack set, and man, I'd been looking at that a while back. Dean's, which they're outrageously expensive, they had full sets you could buy of the Cracker Jack, or you could downgrade and get the full set without the Cobb and the Joe Jackson and the Wagner, or you get the whole thing. And it was crazy expensive. And so I toyed with building a set, and I thought, same thing you're saying. Well, I don't want a bunch of dudes I've never heard of, you know? But man, I just fell in love with that set. It's beautiful. The dudes I've never heard of got some really cool looking cards.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're expensive,
Just
but I'm spreading that bad boy out over a couple of years and
yeah.
gives me something to look for and to chase. And I'm 84% done now, man. And just to lay those out and look at them, it's just cool as crap, man. When I get my new card room, I'm going to have those bad boys all displayed. And I'm building a bookcase just for the Cracker Jack set. And they're going to all be laid up there. And man, it's going to be cool. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've been working on for, I don't know, 3 years now is I'm trying to get every T206 Hall of Fame card, not Plank or Wagner.
yeah.
And for a while, I just wanted one of each guy. And now I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna get every card except for those two.
Yeah.
And I mean, spoiler alert, I just bought 2 today. And
Dang.
I haven't even told you that, but it was like a Facebook post, which I dug into like a comments area and ended up, and there were a couple of beauties that were really well priced. And I'm like, I mean, because I'm pretty picky. And that's the thing is like, those cards aren't that rare. Cracker Jacks are pretty rare. The pirate cards are pretty rare. You got to get them when you see them.
Yeah.
But with the T206s where they're pretty plentiful, the thing that's rare is finding them centered and finding them not look like your dog got after them.
Yeah.
And so when I find one, it's fun to just add another piece to the puzzle. Um, one more thing before we wrap this up, because we've been going about 36, 37 minutes so far. I was listening to my buddy Shane Shoebox Legends this morning and on the way to work, and he had a great video. And Shane is a fantastic guy. And he was talking about how he never really paid attention to the values of his cards. But some of the cards that he's had for a while have gone up in value so much that they're more valuable to other people than they are to him. So he's like, yeah, there were these cards. He was talking about these buyback cards. He's like, yeah, I bought these for like $1 or 2 each. Well, there's some collector trying to pick them up and they're rare. And the guy's paying like $30 to $40 each for them. So he's
Wow.
been selling them off. And he's like, I still like them. I still like these cards. And I like having them. But this guy's gonna give me 30 or 40 bucks and they're just sitting in a box.
Yeah.
And how do I justify keeping a card that this other person really wants and values way more than I value it
Hmm.
and is willing to pay big money for it, where I can sell some of this and get some stuff I never thought I could get.
Yeah.
And I guess that brings me to the question of, when we get to the point with cards where other people value them more than we do, or even though we might like them, even though we still like the cards, but somebody else likes them more and they're
Yeah.
willing to pay more than we would pay for them. Um, how do we give ourselves permission to move on from them?
Yeah. So,
Because, yeah,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and
no,
finish.
no, no. That's pretty much it.
So the value part, we're not talking about dollars and cents here. Really, we're talking about, if I don't look at that card, am I really valuing it? You know, you hear your wife, you don't value me. You didn't give me
Right.
roses in the last year. So
Right.
that has nothing to do with money. It has to do with, are you?
Appreciation.
Yeah, exactly. So want to make sure it's clear. Been a lot of talk about value. So, anyways, so yeah, money's involved there. When I first started collecting, everything I bought, because my collection was really small, I valued, right? And I
Mhm.
was building a collection. I built the mantle run and then I finished it. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I kind of feel like Chevy Chase, when they went to the Grand Canyon, like,
Yeah.
okay, now what?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so yeah, it was like, cool. Well, I can keep looking at the same cards over and over again, but I know I can go out and grab another 65 mantle, you know,
Mhm.
But there were
Yeah.
some other cards out there that I would value more than those, and if I could sell those, I could land something big, and that value. And so
Yeah.
I found myself willing to part with cards, man. So it's pretty documented what I did.
Yeah.
But there are other people that wouldn't do that. Like I wouldn't call them a hoarder, but they're trying to build a collection, and it's about a quantity of a collection, and they can catalog all these cards, and they got them. And if you want to ask, oh yeah, man. I mean, I watch Moynihan and Yogi, Chris from Missouri,
Yeah.
do the
Showcase
the
showdown.
yeah, the showdown thing, and I'm in awe. Like, man alive, dude, they got every Hall of Famer, and
I know.
I mean, that's cool that they can do that. But with me, I'd rather if there's a card over there in the corner that I never look at, then yeah, I'd sell that and get something I'll look at for a while and conquer another hill.
It almost feels like you're right, and I think you nailed it on the head when you said it's not really about value. I don't think value is the right term. I think the right term is appreciate.
Yeah,
When someone else appreciates it more than you appreciate it, because value has the term, the term value has a financial aspect to it, and then it has an appreciation aspect to it.
yeah,
But if I've got a bunch of cards that are sitting in a box and I never look at them, I'm just like, oh yeah, I mean, I got that, and there's this other guy who's searching everywhere and really wants that, and
yeah,
he's willing to pay up for it because he really appreciates that, and I don't really appreciate it. But the thing I would really appreciate is that thing over there. Maybe what you do is you set it free to the place it's going to get appreciated, and then you go get the thing that you appreciate. And that's kind of, I think, what Shane was saying today. And I just thought it was a great video, and it kind of got my head got my wheels turning a little bit about. I started going, maybe what I need to start doing is regularly, like once a month, maybe go through my cards one by one and just sit and look at it and go, does this one still get me excited? Does this one still get my juices flowing?
yeah,
And if it doesn't, maybe I put it in the pile where I'm going to think on it, on whether it's still the right card for me.
yeah,
And it's not necessarily because the financial value of the card went up, but it's maybe that the appreciation value of the card isn't as high as I once was. Maybe I just fell out of love with the card for whatever reason. Maybe
yeah,
I got bored with that set or that player or that era, and something else gets me really excited. And I just need to give myself permission to go, it's not that you don't like it, you just don't appreciate it as much as this other thing. And if we have a fixed amount of assets, shouldn't we be spending our assets on the things that we're going to appreciate the most?
yeah,
So, but I also do respect those guys that have the volume and they
yeah.
love having everything. Like, I respect that. I just don't know if that's for me. And
So
that's for them, and that's cool.
yeah, I know we're up against it, so I'll just say this real quick.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, you talked about when you were a kid how you would trade cards. You'd
Yeah.
use something for trade bait. So the way I look at it is, I'm basically trading cards for one card. I'm trading 10 for one bigger one. I'm
Yeah.
trading. So I asked myself, would I trade these cards for that card? That's all I'm doing. I'm just trading. I'm doing like I did when I was a kid. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, because those cards, the great thing about collecting vintage cards, they typically hold their value. It's like a savings account in your
Mhm.
card room. So you
Mhm.
spend a little bit over time getting these, and then you're like, yeah, but I'd really like to have that one. And you just cash in your chips and you trade and you get a bigger one. That's
Mhm.
what it is.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you jumping in. You were the best bullpen call of the of the spring, or what are we, fall? You did a great job. I had an absolute blast talking to you. Mike, we hope he feels better soon, but everyone's replaceable.
Well, I mean, you remember Wally Pipp, so
Yeah,
he
yeah.
needs to remember that.
Hey,
I could be
is
Gary.
Mike Wally Pip? That might be the question out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, buddy. I appreciate you. Thanks again for spending some time with us. To those of you out there, if you've not subscribed yet to us, consider it. And if you've not subscribed to Tony, Southern Collector 14, I highly recommend it. And remember, we are available on Spotify and Apple, and I think Amazon now too. So we're taking over.
Big
So
time.
yeah. All right, buddy.
Thanks, man.